Hello, I'm David DeCosmo. Welcome to ECTV Live. My traditional co-host, Rusty Fender, is off. We will see him back shortly. My guest today is John Mayday, who's with the Riverfront Parks Commission in the Luzerne County area. And John is sort of the chief cook and bottle washer when it comes to talking with us with regard to Riverfest, the big event which is coming up very shortly on June 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. And always rattles me the fact that one of the dates is June 23rd, which is the anniversary of the Agnes flood, the worst river disaster that ever happened in Wyoming Valley. But it's so nice now you can look at it in a positive way. And before we get into all the specifics about what's coming up with all these events, John, let's talk about that. When Wyoming Valley was devastated in 1972, the levee system was eventually rebuilt, and it wasn't an overnight rebuilding. It took years and years and years.
I think there was two iterations of that.
Exactly. And along with that came some very nice improvements. I'm thinking of that one section in Wilkes-Barre. Just looks so grand with an area there we could have concerts if they wanted to, etc. That's going to be a real plus for your efforts too.
Well, it's interesting you brought that up because that the River Common Park.
Yeah.
That you have to understand the Army Corps of Engineers. I was in the military.
Okay.
I understand that mindset, and I worked with the federal government. The mindset is we have taxpayer money. We're building a wall. Well, we have efficiency. Basically, paint everything that green color and gray, whatever the cheapest you could find. But do the job, build a wall, and that's it. They do not like to punch holes in levees. I just did a stint 4 years on the Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority. So I was on the board. So I received an education on the mindset, the further mindset, the extended mindset of the Army Corps of Engineers, who are very protective of their flood protection projects. Mm-hmm. Just to give you a case in point, Riverfront Parks Committee with our Earth Day event in Nesbitt Park, we would plant trees so the kids it's for elementary school students so they can get an idea how to plant trees and whatever. I remember one year we planted one, it was 6 inches too close to the levee. We had to move it. Yeah. And the reason is because if we did it, somebody else would do it. Over time, those root systems could end up deteriorating, impact the integrity of the levee.
I remember prior to the 72 flood in the community of Plymouth, mm-hmm. Where I believe they had groundhog or something like an infestation along the levee, and it was a main concern. And here's something, a rodent, nobody even sees the thing. Occasionally, you don't realize that it's tunneling under these levees, mm-hmm. Causing areas where those levees, under stress, could fail.
And that's how, and some people say, oh, what's the big deal? Well, that is a big deal. But getting back to, they do not like punching holes in levees. However, we had some visionaries. As a matter of fact, when that whole project was being planned out, this goes years before even the dedication in 2009, the vision system, the visioning group that came together, we were part of it because we had been doing so much work down there over the years.
Sure.
Environmental education, stewardship, advocacy, and of course recreation. So the plan was build something as long as they agree to it, and if the money was there, that you could bring the community back to the river. So we had strong support at the federal level. Paul Konjorski, Congressman Konjorski, was an advocate for this. We had strong support at the state level, the Commonwealth. And we had strong support in the county and in the city. So with all of those forces in play, that money was going to be spent for that type of project somewhere in this country, somewhere across the country. But we were fortunate enough to have all those forces in play.
And where that opening is, which amounts to a stage, if you will.
Well, there are two of them.
All right. Well, where they're built, though, were you to have an emergency, they can be easily sealed.
Oh yeah, we have students come there every year between Kings and Wilkes, their freshman year, and they walk in there and they look at it and they, well, doesn't this flood? Because I start giving them a little primer on this. I said yes, but however, take a look at where the portals are, where the entranceway is. You see these doors over here? These doors house the gates that go over.
Right.
So I'll open the doors and I'll show them. There's a track on the
Completely
on the floor.
seal that area for safety.
You completely seal it. Plus, you seal over the Market Street Bridge on both ends.
Right.
When you mentioned 1972, that's where I first met you, but you probably don't remember this. I was part of I had an apartment in downtown Wilkes-Barre. The water was coming up. My sister calls me. She said, you better get out of there, closing the bridges. I headed to her house in Edwardsville, high up, out of the flood, and I knew they were putting out a call for volunteers.
Yes.
I came back. I was at the base of the Market Street Bridge on the right-hand side. Right before you go over the bridge, I was with the sandbagging crews.
Ah, yes, yes.
And I remember I think you were reporting on it that
I was
day or
actually
something.
drafted as the public information
That's-
officer for civil defense
Right.
at the time.
So somehow we connected there.
Yeah.
But I remember the mud and all of that. But getting back to fast forward many years, now we're getting back to the river again.
Right.
In a safe, sane way. And
when you think of how positive they can be, and I look at Williamsport, I look at Harrisburg, where they've got riverboat rides
Right.
in both of those communities. Riverfest came about. Well, how old is Riverfest now?
Riverfest is about 25 years old. What you see, what we will talk about, this 3-day event that's extensive. A lot of, as they say, moving parts. It started when we were a fledgling organization. Mary Lee Namey took an interest in it because he was an advocate for the environment. He saw we were doing some good work. He encouraged us to and helped us with achieving our 501c3 nonprofit status right around that time, because we had started somewhere 1990, 89, 1990, but doing work on trails, cleanups, clearing trails in the natural area of Kirby Park, the Olmsted Trail where the zoo used to be and all of that. And then we started doing more outreach. But Riverfest started, I'm going to say 93, 94, somewhere in that time frame, with a couple of folding tables in Nesbitt Park along the river, handing out some information, and we had some exhibits, some minor types of exhibits. And just encouraging the public to come and see what we had.
Wow,
it was
what
on a,
growth.
It was on a Sunday. I remember walking through what we refer to as the manicured area of Kirby Park, where the ball fields are.
Yes, yeah.
Before we started, with flyers, just trying to encourage somebody to come over and see what we had. And we had the great musician Don Chappelle. He was there doing a little playing a little acoustic guitar for us, and so we looked, I would say, pretty sad at that point in time. I mean, we were there.
Well, it was a beginning effort.
It was absolutely a beginning effort. We had some people who were interested, and then we started to slowly evolve, add a few more things. Of course, it all cost money, and so we started to interest some sponsors on a very minimal level, and then bringing in some more volunteers, and then we just started to grow, and over time we've come to this, which is Riverfest 2019.
And what an amazing schedule you've got. Now you begin on Friday, June the 21st. So what's up first with?
Well, first of all, let me
Riverfest?
just mention something. When you talked about the 23rd, and it's always around we didn't choose those dates because of Agnes.
Okay.
June is Rivers Month in the Commonwealth, in the state of Pennsylvania. So we felt compelled to hold Riverfest during June. However, the first half of June is typically graduations.
Yes, yeah.
And sometimes weddings. So there are other things going on that would conflict. So, and then if you go too far into the month, you're getting too close to, you're competing with the 4th of July. So we said, well, and then obviously, this is also the weekend that kicks off summer.
Sure.
So what a better way to kick off summer than with Riverfest?
Absolutely.
And the irony is that it's also, as an aside to it, that this is a great way to celebrate the river, even though and it's an educational tool because the river goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down. It could be, you have to learn to respect it.
And you don't want to forget the memories and the
Right.
lessons learned in
History.
and the Agnes flood.
And the history.
Exactly.
We
So-
have to, because if you don't understand the past, how in the world are you going to know where you're going?
Exactly. Sure.
So, and to remember those people, all those people who gave a lot to help out.
Absolutely.
Even though it was in vain, and then all the people who came in after, all the volunteers who came in after to clean
Sure.
to make it, to clean it out and put it all back.
City of Wilkes-Barre downtown area was literally rebuilt after the Agnes flood. It was for a time the newest city in the
Yep.
United States back in 1973, 74, 75.
And then it took a little downturn, and then now it's back on it's back in a renaissance. I'm also president of the Downtown Wilkes-Barre Business Association, so I get involved in a lot of that.
Sure.
So,
Well,
but
good reasons to promote.
Right, and with that organization, Riverfront Parks Committee, I also have an opportunity to bring the two together where it makes sense.
And they should be together because it's a
Collaborations are key.
hand-in-hand situation.
Right. Collaborations are key.
What they call a win-win.
Right. So you asked me about Friday, June. That's tradition to kick off.
Right.
You know, we start at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
We're going to, obviously you have to have food at a festival, so we have food trucks. We have entertainment. This year, our musical performance is the Tom Petty Appreciation Band.
Oh, great.
So we're going to do a little bit of Tom Petty. So
Yeah.
if you're interested in Tom Petty, you're a fan of Tom Petty, come on down, you're going to see this.
And do I see Bassmaster
Susky-
a fishing derby?
Right. Susky Bassmasters are going to coordinate some fun for kids and families fishing along the Susquehanna River
Now that's great. You know,
in Nesbitt Park.
I
Right there.
fish occasionally.
Well,
and one of the neatest places to fish is in a river because there's all kinds of sizes and varieties.
It's the Susky Bassmasters are a catch and release organization.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They hold tournaments. They hold a series of tournaments all summer. You know, they have and then they give out the awards at the end, and they're very active. They're partners of ours. We work closely together. They just put in solar lights. They did some fundraising. They put in solar lights in the parking lot of the Fish and Boat Commission's parking lot.
Oh, nice.
Many people don't realize this. The Fish and Boat Commission has control over that parking lot.
Oh, because that's their access.
That's their
area.
access.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and they take that serious.
Oh,
You
sure,
know, if
sure.
you run an event, you have to have your launch permits and all of that.
That's quite a place to be on the river, by the way. I know because I sank a canoe there one time.
Well-
we overloaded it, but my partner and I readjusted. We were okay then. But
So we're doing that. Plus, we have two river tours. We have river trips every day, kayaks and canoes on the river.
Okay.
We have two outfitters that coordinate that part of it. So we have something called a paddle through time with Jan Lakuta. John Lakuta is a local attorney, but is also a historian.
Yes.
And a advocate for the environment, and he's one of our board members. They're going to paddle from Harding to West Pittston. You're going to do a little lesson in paddling through time along the river.
wow, that sounds like
That's
fun.
going to run from 8 until noon. And then we have our evening paddle on Friday that will run from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. So also we're also going to have what's called the Wilkes-Barre Family YMCA, their Imagination Playground. We're going to have that on Friday and Saturday. What it is, it comes in these two large containers, and it's foam, different shapes, different sizes of foam, and the kids get in there and they just use their imagination and build things with it.
It's almost like a foam Lego.
Right, it's something like that. Yeah, I guess you
yeah.
could use that as an analogy. I remember one year I saw some kids build a car out of it because they're
Oh.
circular shapes. They're, something for the axles and the sides, but you could do just about anything with it. Plus, Jan Lakuta, again that evening, he'll be doing this on Friday and Saturday, painting a community mural. He'll sketch out the outline, and then he'll have kids and family members come in, and he'll give them paint, and he'll guide them through painting it.
Well, you mentioned the idea that afternoon float and the history in that section. There's a tremendous amount of history along the river, right in that fairly short stretch of river.
Absolutely, and that's why he's excited about doing this, and So that's going to be what that's his part of it.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, from that one experience that I did have, it's an entirely different world. Seeing your environment from the river, rather than traveling along the river, looking at the river, being on the river, looking out at
Once you
everything
get
else.
on the river, you can't explain it to someone.
No,
you try to explain
it's
it,
delightful.
but you have to be on there and look at, okay, from bank to bank, and you're sitting in the middle of it, and then you may see a blue heron on the shore.
Yeah.
Or flying along the riverbank. You may see some river otters, fish jumping out of the river, just looking at the clouds, the trees, the sun, the whatever.
And you consider the history, you go back far enough, you got to think that river, Susquehanna River, was, for the Native Americans, that was their interstate highway.
That was their interstate highway. It was their source of food. It was their source of transportation and source of communication to get from one village to the other,
Yeah.
all the way from up in New York State, all the way down to the Chesapeake Bay, Havre de Grace. So,
Yeah.
So that's Friday.
Right.
That's quite a bit on Friday.
Absolutely.
And then on Saturday we start at noon. We have our environmental education tent. Oh, by the way, I did mention that our mission is environmental education, awareness, stewardship, advocacy, and recreation. That's why we do this. This is a way to get someone into your classroom
Yes.
and have fun doing it.
Yeah.
So that's the key to this.
That's the best way to learn, when you're having fun
Right, when
learning.
you're having fun.
Yeah.
So we have this environmental education tent. It's 40 by 100 feet. We have about 40 environmental education exhibitors that they tell their story, they teach.
Yeah, what sort of, give me an example.
Okay, say Pennsylvania American Water. They'll have something about water systems.
Oh, okay.
We'll have Pennsylvania Environmental Council. They'll have something going on in there. We have DCNR, Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. They'll talk about their park systems, and they'll have the Forestry Service will be there. They could talk about the impact of fires on the environment.
Yes,
and
yeah.
how to prevent them. We'll have Department of Environmental Protection. We'll have some of the schools from their education, their science curriculums will be there. So
Is this in Nesbitt Park?
it's in Nesbitt Park.
Okay.
We'll have something called an Enviroscape. A couple of the Wyoming Valley Sanitary Authority will be there with an Enviroscape, and there's another organization that has Enviroscape is basically it'll show you one looks like a farmland. It'll show you what the effect of runoff from water and how
I
it
see.
impacts everything. And these things are really interesting to see because they're all hands-on for kids.
Yeah.
But we primarily focus on our education level is at kids, because number one, they're teachable,
Yes.
and if you make it that simple, then the adults should be able to understand
Sure,
it.
sure.
But sadly enough, though, and we found this, sometimes after you get to a certain point in life, those things don't mean much to you.
Not as much, perhaps?
Well, not as much.
You wonder, I've traveled some in Europe, and driving along the highways there where you don't see litter at all.
Right.
Along the sides of the roads. And then you drive some of the back roads here, and it's sad.
It's
It
extreme.
really
You know
is.
what bothers me about that sometimes? Sometimes the same person who will be at a ballpark or whatever singing the national anthem because they care about this country, and then they'll walk out and they'll drop some litter.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody does it, but the person who does that, I don't understand that. I don't
Now,
understand that.
I was going to say a mindset, but maybe it isn't a mindset. It's a bad habit.
But that's the point. It's a bad habit that has to be learned.
Yeah, yeah.
So you learn that, and then what are your children learning from you? The
Right.
key is stop it right now. Don't be a bad example.
Sure. Make
When
the
I did,
future better.
when I did mention that Bassmasters fishing tournament, that's one of the 3 new events we have this year.
Ah.
So that's key. That's a new one this year. And then on Saturday we have 2 new events. We are working with Jennifer Saramboli. She conducts yoga throughout the summer.
Very big right now.
Right,
Very
throughout
big.
the summer, every Saturday morning, starting at 10 o'clock she'll run it from Memorial Day weekend right through Labor Day weekend. But also this year, she's added 5, because it's the 10th anniversary of the opening of the River Common. She's added 5 new sessions, starting in, they'll be starting on June 26th, every 2 weeks, on a Wednesday, from 6 to 7 p.m., and they're going to be slightly different every time.
All along the riverfront.
All along. This will be on the east side of the river, along right on that big pier that you see.
Yes, okay.
So that the yoga will be held there. But she's also new this year at Riverfest. She's also having kids yoga, and the kids will receive a free yoga mat. We're also new this year is we're working with the Pennsylvania Environmental Council. They're doing something called Get Your Tail on the Trail. We're working with it's an initiative with the Delaware and Lehigh National Heritage Water Corridor, and with the Pennsylvania Environmental Council and DCNR and Geisinger, the City of Wilkes-Barre's Health Department. These are chapters that are along the trail that runs from Philadelphia. The terminus, I say the trailhead, is at the Northampton Street portal in downtown Wilkes-Barre of this DNL National Heritage Corridor. It's I think it's 165 miles.
Wow.
But to encourage people to get out on the trail systems and to get people outside, we're kicking off the Northeastern Pennsylvania chapter of Get Your Tail on the Trail at Riverfest. Pennsylvania Environmental Council, who's coordinating this, they contacted us. They want to know if they could do this, initiate this, start this, kick this off at Riverfest, because it's already a built-in audience.
Sure. It's going to be a 2-mile walk?
It's a 2-mile walk, and there are prizes involved. It is not what you would call a mass start. It is, we have from between 11 and 1, you just register and you go out and do the 2-mile walk. I wheel measured it. You get on the levee, it's a mile up, obviously a mile back, it's an out and about. And when you return, you will receive a free drawstring bag, commemorative, but you also receive a ticket for a raffle for some very valuable prizes. So somebody would say, well, how do you know that I came back? What if I just go up and then just come back again? Well, at the halfway point, we have volunteers stationed on top of the levee. You get a little sticker, you put it on your shirt, and you come back. We'll also give you a bottle of water if you want it at the beginning. When you come back, you have to make sure you bring that bottle back with you.
Okay.
Because we don't want somebody
recycling is part of this.
So that's also encouragement, because then you will also receive
Sure.
your whatever it is we're giving away.
That was one of the first immediate positive recreational developments after the Agnes flood was when the levee system was redesigned. It was a convenient walk path. Bicycles walk. I see people basically between Kingston and Wilkes-Barre.
And up to 44.
Up to 44 as well, and they're riding bikes, they're jogging, or walking.
But here's something that most people do not understand. The levee system is private property. It is the private property of the Luzerne County Flood Protection Authority.
Okay.
The top of that levee, at one time, prior to this iteration of the levee raising, it was dirt.
Yes, yes.
It was all dirt. So it was paved. But the reason for the paving was to be able to accommodate maintenance work in a much more efficient manner. The Flood Protection Authority realizes people are going to use it.
Sure.
And you can't stop, and they encourage it because they want people, it's part of a recreation. You know, it's recreation and to be a good neighbor. However, at any point in time, they could deny, say an emergency, they could deny access to it because it is private property.
Sure.
And I remember when I was on the board, we would, every so often, we would receive, especially in the winter, why aren't you plowing this so I can go out and get my walk in? We said, well, because we're not expending funds to do that, because that is not the purpose of it, it's not the mission of it. The purpose of it, the mission of it is maintenance and emergency
Levees
vehicles.
are there primarily to prevent flooding.
Right, it's there to prevent flooding. We will allow you to, we will accommodate you to be on it. So, you know, there's some people, and you would get some really heated conversations with people. It would be the same as if you let me walk through your yard and I would say to you, well, why don't you mow this lawn? So,
Yeah.
but also on Saturday we have food. We have food every day. We have the City of Wilkes-Barre's Fire Department, their fire safety house. It's a good way to teach families what to do in case of an emergency. That environmental education tent. We also accommodate our sponsors in there. Say you're a sponsor, I will tell you, because you paid some money, you could be there, you could promote your business. One thing you can't do, you can't sell anything.
Okay.
We don't allow commerce, we don't allow retail.
I see.
For a number of reasons. One, because we don't going to get into that. And you know one thing I'm always concerned about? One family may be able to buy something, maybe another family will not. So let's just make it clear.
Well, along that line, let's point out too that if you're not into the kayaking, if you're not into the canoeing, you just want to come and enjoy maybe even watching the kayaking and enjoying the music, there's no charge, right?
Right. There's no charge. Of course, the food vendors, that's a charge.
Yeah, sure.
That's basically a convenience for you, a service because you're hungry. We do have some stuff for kids. We have pony rides and we have a bounce house, but because that's an expense for us. You know, that can't be free.
Right,
so that has to be accommodated. You know, we have to pay for that. We also have something called Live Mammals from the Second Chance Wildlife Center. They rehab animals.
Okay.
It's a nonprofit. They do this kind of work and they'll come down and just show off. And that's a big hit. And of course, as I mentioned, we have the yoga for kids. We also have guided nature walks. That's also paint a community mural. We also have another organization, the Five Mountain Bear Clan from the Shikshini area. They're a Native American teaching village.
Oh, that's great.
And
how about Sunday? We're just about out of time.
Oh,
so
okay, I'm sorry. Sunday we have the dragon boat races, which also on Saturday we have the dragon boat racing. The teams will be training.
Oh, great.
2 teams every hour.
So you can watch them. So that's enjoyable on itself.
That is a hoot to watch. And then Sunday we also have a river trip in the morning from Nesbitt Park to Hunlock Creek, but the majority of the day is taken with the dragon boat racing. Dragon boat racing is unique. Tradition goes, it's 2,000-year-old tradition from China.
It's so much fun to watch.
Oh yeah. It's a hoot. And those races take anywhere from 45 to 50 seconds to a minute. They're sprints. Somebody will say, well, what big a deal is that? I say, you get in that boat, you have 22 people in the boat, 20 paddle. You paddle up the river against the current, turn the boat around, and paddle as fast as you can. You do that 3 or 4 times. You're going to be tired.
That's it. You don't have to do the 2-mile walk, right?
Last year, yeah, right. Last year, I know we're getting short on time. Last year, the first place team, it's cumulative, you know, whatever your times are, first place team beat the second place team by less than, I was looking at the numbers again because I couldn't believe it, by less than 1 second.
Wow, wow. All right, we have to go now. I thank you so much. What a great, great celebration of the environment and the Riverfest in Wyoming Valley, Friday, June 21st, Saturday the 22nd, and Sunday the 23rd. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll have you again next year too.
Well, it's the annual visit. It's my annual
has to be.
sojourn to the city of Scranton.
Has to be. I'm David D. Cosmo, ECTV Live. Till we see you again next week. Here's hoping all your news is good.